Keys to the game, Brian. We are here. This is going to be interesting. I feel like I've set the bar very high with my matchup, so I'm a little worried about my keys.
We got one super chat about the keys to the game. Keys to the game for Cincinnati fans. Don't boo the Notre Dame band like Wisconsin fans did during the 1812 overture. Go Irish. Yeah, because they did that, and then what happened the rest of the fourth quarter?
They all jumped around and jumped around Wisconsin.
You know,
was great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Keys to the game, Brian. You want to start on offense or defense?
Let's go defense. Let's kind of stick with the defensive. I mean, that's the side of the ball that's been carrying his team right now. So let's go with them first.
Okay.
My first key, Vince, is you got to disrupt Desmond Ridder early and often. I mean, you cannot, to your point, you cannot let him get comfortable. And this is kind of what you were talking about during your matchup thing, is you can't let him feel comfortable in the pocket where he feels like he can go to his second and third read, where he feels he has time to step into a deep ball, or he sees it drops back and he sees that open lane just open up, part like the Red Sea. You can't let him get comfortable. Indiana early in the game had him completely off his game. And it wasn't until McFadden got booted and they kind of got some momentum that wasn't about the offense that he finally started making some plays. If he starts like that against Notre Dame was Cincinnati out. I mean, he was throwing balls to Indiana guys. They should have had a couple more interceptions than the one that they did.
Yep.
So that to me is a big key. And that involves, obviously having a great game plan. It involves execution up front, great timing when you do blitz. It involves good coverage that doesn't allow him to just get rid of the ball quickly, because that's the one thing Mike Denbrock's really good at, coming up with a lot of ways to allow Desmond Ridder to quickly get rid of the football.
Sure, I have a lot of
as part of his offense, tons.
Yeah,
and so to me, that is going to be a key. Is get him. Disrupt him, and disrupting him doesn't always mean what you do with your personnel, attacking him. It also means what you do from Marcus Freeman's standpoint schematically.
Mm-hmm.
Make him think he's seeing cover one and then don't play cover one. Make him think you're running zone and then play man. Make him think you're coming and he starts, because especially I've always liked when you start hitting a quarterback a little bit. I like doing smoke blitzes, because once a guy's been hit a few times, he's like, I got to get rid of this ball quickly. And that's when he's more prone to he sees you lining up and the both inside linebackers are coming. He's thinking, I'm throwing this slant quick because I'm getting sick of hitting in the face.
That's when you can step in front and make
plays. Or drop back underneath it, those kind of things. So I confuse him, right? Confuse him. Everybody talks about how we know the Cincinnati's going to have some, they're going to know some weaknesses to what Marcus Freeman does. And I'm like, well, yeah, the opposite is true as well. Marcus Freeman has a better sense of, but here's the difference. Marcus Freeman's defense is working with a bunch of new players. You don't know per se what he does with this kind of talent. Cincinnati's got the same dudes they had last year. I mean, so they haven't really changed much. I mean, you watch them play, Vince, they haven't changed a whole lot. They're basically the same team on both sides of the ball that they were last year. So I think that does, in fact, give Marcus Freeman greater insight. And he knows, hey, here's when we know in third down, we know that they're vulnerable here. And I think those are areas where Notre Dame can and should have some success in this game.
Well, one of my keys was contain Ridder, right? I mean, that's, if you don't do that, it's not going to happen. And I'm not going to repeat everything you just said because you laid it out perfectly. That's the number one person I'm worried about, going up against Notre Dame's defense is Ridder. I mean, he is the guy that you have to keep in control, because if you don't, it could be a long day for Notre Dame's defense. So it's got to be Ridder. That has to be the number one key for anybody that's looking at this game, talking about Notre Dame's defense. You have to put a noose, you have to control them, you got to put him on a leash. You got to, whatever the terminology is, so he can't get away from you, right?
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
It's going to avoid the noose one.
Well, that was the wrong term. Right. I apologize. I meant leash.
I know what you meant. Yeah. No, it's containing him is key. And there's different. That's what I was saying, though, Vince. It's not just about like pressuring him and hitting him. It's also about doing things schematically to keep him off balance. Because sometimes containing a guy isn't just putting 7 at him. It's also he's back there with uncertainty. He's not sure what to do or where to go or what he's saying. All those things are true. And so I think, what's your second point, Vince? What's your second key?
Mine is just continue the mojo. Like, use what happened in Wisconsin and let it play into the next week. This is where I love the fact they don't have a bye before this big game, right? Because they had a big game. You want to keep that mojo working. And I think that they can do that. And that's going to be a key. If they can come out fired up the way they ended the Wisconsin game, they can roll that fourth quarter into this game, then they're not going to have any problem whatsoever. I mean, just the way they were playing at the end of that game, if they can play like that at the beginning of this game, it's going to be game over.
Last two games too. I mean, they've been pretty good at shutting both of those teams down. For me, it's shut down the run. That's key number 2. Make them one-dimensional. If Cincinnati can be balanced in this game, they're going to be harder to they can score 24, 27, 30 points if they're balanced. If you make them one-dimensional, even though that one dimension is their best dimension, look, to me, it's easier to take a run game away than it is to take a pass game away. If a team is decent at both, and they're good at throwing the ball, they're solid at running the ball. I still want to be able to take away that run game.
Oh, sure.
But being able to do it with the box, not having to bring Kyle. So when I say stop the run, stop the run with your box. I should have probably
not at all costs,
more. Right. It's not like bring both your safeties down and blitz your rovers a million times. You've got to be able to beat them with your base defense. That means your 2 inside backers and your 4 defensive linemen. That means your D-line's got to be disruptive. They got to do exactly what they did last week. That was the amazing thing about last week is they did not shut down the run by committing excess numbers to it. They shut down Wisconsin's run because they played disciplined football, but they also just won up front and just beat Wisconsin in the trenches with a bunch of linemen where their biggest guy was 280 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who? If I'd have told you 2 years ago Notre Dame's going to play Wisconsin in a couple of years, and Jason Adamiola is going to be the biggest defensive lineman Notre Dame's had, you thought one of two things going to happen. Like, A, Driscoll got hit in the head and he's having concussion problems. Or B, you'd assume that Jason Adamiola put on like 30 pounds, which he hasn't, But that was an impressive thing, and you've got to do it that way again. It has to be with your base. If you have to commit resources to stopping their run game, which I don't think they should have to, if they play their game, that's going to be a key for me.
Yep.
What about number 3?
So number 3 is, I guess it kind of goes along with keep the mojo, but it's block out the noise, but use it.
Yeah.
And that goes to obviously Ritter's comments and things of that nature. Again, Notre Dame or defense in general, you play with emotion, you play with passion, you play with fire. When you've got bulletin board material and it's geared right towards the defense, it really can stoke a defense. And I love that. And I believe that he opened his mouth at the wrong time. And I think, from what I've heard, it is literally bulletin board material right now.
Yes, I've heard the same thing.
Yeah, so
literally, not figuratively speaking, literally.
It's been posted and everybody knows it. And let's go.
Which made me happy because it means they still use paper and stuff. I feel like not everything is on the phone now.
Maybe they texted it to everybody. I don't know, but
it's literally there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is be disciplined. I mean, look, let's be honest. There has not been a team that Notre Dame has played that has done anything against them when Notre Dame doesn't allow them to do something against them. And what I mean by that is the big plays that Florida State had, the big plays that Toledo had, they were all, even against Wisconsin, they were all predicated on, I'd say the one exception. I thought the shovel pass was a really well-designed, well-executed play. Sometimes they just get you.
Yeah.
That was the first time all season I thought, oh, you know what? That was a real good call, real good play. Hats off to the offense on that one. The 2 big plays from Florida State were Notre Dame guys making mistakes, not being assignment correct, not being, not taking the proper angles, not tackling well. That's all part of being disciplined, tackling well. Same thing with the touchdown that Houston Griffith gave up. It was just not being disciplined, not trusting your technique, not executing. Same thing against the wheel route against Toledo where KJ Wallace goes under instead of going over. That's just not being disciplined,
Right.
We saw the mistake on the blitz where it opens up the long run. I mean, when they've given up big plays, it's been a lack of discipline, and discipline meaning discipline in your training, being assignment correct, being aggressive, taking proper tackling angles, wrapping up and making tackles when you get there. If Notre Dame does that, if they just play sound football, they will shut down Cincinnati because they are do your job. And because they're the better team. And literally none of the 4 teams they've played have been able to move the ball on Notre Dame when Notre Dame has played sound football. That's just how good this defense is, in my opinion. And I don't think Cincinnati's the team that is going to change that. I think there are some offenses that have enough firepower at certain positions to maybe do that, but this isn't it. If you play your game, be disciplined, be disciplined, It's like that controlled aggression, that controlled rage that we talk about, focused aggression. I think that's what makes this defense so good. But the problem is if one guy blows his assignment, that can result in big plays. So that to me is my final key.
Well, let's jump over to the other side of the ball. Keys to the game on the offensive side for Notre Dame. What do they have to do to stay in this game and to win the game?
You already kind of took some of my thunder. I'm still bitter about that. My number one key is use your speed.
I love that.
Use your speed. Like, look, yeah, they can't run with you, and they have good athletes. They can't run with you at this. Notre Dame has speed everywhere. Use it, right? So what does that look like? Okay, that means making sure that Chris Tyree has more than 3 flipping touches in this game. Okay, it means making sure that yes, it's good to use Braden Lindsey on go routes and post routes because he's really fast, but use him on other things. Even if those other things are just, hey, we're going to use a jet sweep and reverse because we're going to set something else up. You know what I mean? Off of that. Don't just expect Kevin Austin, who's really only played 4 games as a starting caliber player at Notre Dame and hasn't really played that many meaningful snaps the last 2 years prior to this. Don't ask him to sit there and go into a situation where he's got to go against Ahmad Gardner every single snap as the boundary corner. Move him around. Put him in position to get him ISO'd against Arquan Bush in the slot or Kobe Bryant to the field or, the safeties and things like that. Let Michael Mayer get some matchups against Ahmad Gardner. Here's the thing. Why don't you run at him a couple of those times when you got him into the boundary, right? And let your 250-pound tight end, get physical with him a little bit. You move Braden Lindsey around in different places. Use Avery Davis in different ways. Get Kyron and Chris Tyree involved in the pass game. Use your speed. Use your speed and push the tempo at times. Don't let them play all those line games. Force them to get into real basic calls. Whether that's Notre Dame coming out of a series with a two call situation. 2 calls meaning basically you make 2 calls before you run out on the field. So the players know what the first and second play is. So you run the first play, they know, line up and run the second call that you made. And so you line up and you do it, and then you push the tempo and, you can look for the calls and things like that. Or if it's just normal tempo where you push, look, go, all that type of stuff, keep them on their heels. Use your speed to your advantage. Be aggressive in going after them. And also find ways to be able to do it in a way that doesn't require you to always have to throw the ball 40 yards down the field. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can use your speed on real short stuff, screens, jets, reverses, all that stuff. Use all of it. Use your whole repertoire because you're going to need it. This is a really good defense. It's a really well-coached defense. You need to be able to use your whole repertoire to attack them. So that's my biggest key. And honestly, that is by far my biggest key to the game. What's yours?
So I've got a few here. My first one is you have to establish the run. And I'm not saying that they have to be world beaters in the run. I'm not saying that at all. Notre Dame had 3 yards rushing. It doesn't take much more than that for me to be happy, right? I shouldn't say much more, but you know what I mean? Like, they don't have to rush for 250 yards for me to say, they established the run. Good job. Right. I think this Cincinnati defense is susceptible to the run. That's what I see on film. I see 5 and 6 yard carries on a regular basis against IU. Okay. That's what I see. And so I think Notre Dame, if it clicks for the offensive line this week, then I think that they can, push forward and do something in the run game. And I think that that'll be really, really important, that they need to establish that run game. My second one is I want to see them put the defensive backs in a bind. I want to see them do some things, whether it's RPOs, whether it's some choice routes, whether it's levels, flood concepts, crossers, all those different things that are going to put the defensive backs in a bind. That's what I want to see. I like Notre Dame's speed on the outside. I do. But this is a good secondary for Cincinnati. I don't know that I want to go one-on-one all the time with those guys. I don't know that it's a matchup you can win, but I don't want that to be the only egg in my basket, right? I want to put them in a bind, make them make some decisions, make them wrong, right? That's what you need to do when you're going up against guys that are, of equal or just maybe below talent level. You need to make them wrong. And that's what I want to see in the pass game from Notre Dame. And my last one, again, it goes back to the quarterbacks, and I get that we don't necessarily know who it might be. It's probably going to be Jack Cohn. I know that might make some people upset, but whoever it is, the quarterback needs to bring it this week.
Right.
I think the quarterback needs to be right. Of course, that means he needs to be upright, and that was one of my keys to last week, and didn't really go that way. But the quarterback needs to be right. Whatever your definition of the quarterback being right is, that's what needs to happen. If it's a pull situation on a zone read, pull it and go.
Right.
I don't care who the quarterback is.
Get your 6 or 7 yards.
Yes, absolutely. And if it's Tyler Buckner, get your 20. That's fine too, right? In the pass game, if it's an RPO, make the right read, right? If it's, if you're dealing with a flood concept and you're dealing with those crossers, make the right read. Again, make the DBs wrong. So whoever the quarterback is, and let me reiterate the fact that I have faith in whoever it is. If it's 17, if it's 10, if it's 12, whoever it happens to be, I have faith in whoever it is, but they need to bring it. This is a huge matchup, and you're not going to win a lot of huge matchups unless your quarterback brings at least his B game, at least his B to B plus game, right? So that's what I want to see. Those are my 3 keys to the offense.
I think for me, first down success is going to be a big one this week as well. You've got to avoid the third and if you're getting in a lot of 3rd and 6 and longers, or 3rd and 7, 8, 9 and longers like they have the last couple games against this defense, you have no chance. No chance to be successful. They've got to be good on first down. That means running the ball. That means being really efficient with the pass game. I would avoid trying to take too many first down shots in this game. And when you do, take them when you're already midfield or further along. Don't take them at your own 20.
Yeah.
Come out like they did after, like the second series after they gave up the first down sack. I thought after that, it was get the ball out quick. It was hit that seam quickly. It was run the wheel route and get the ball out quickly to Joe Wilkins. It was that get the ball out quickly. And I think those are the things that we saw that this offense started to click. When they get that ball out quickly, and sometimes getting the ball out quickly is throwing the ball downfield. And it was with Jack early. It was with Drew on his touchdown drive. When they were doing that, they were successful. You got to be efficient on first down. And then the third one is the offensive line has to hold its own. It's not that hard. They don't have to dominate. They don't have to blow the Cincinnati D-line 8 yards off the ball. They don't have to look like the 2017 O-line or the 2015 O-line or the 2018 O-line or the 2020 offensive line or any other good offensive line Notre Dame has had. They just have, great offensive line Notre Dame's had. 2018 wasn't great. They just have to just do your job, right? It's we say be physical, play hard, and get a body on a body. If you do that, you've got elite running backs that can make people pay. They've done it. Like literally, you've given them like 5 holes all year, and like 3 of them turned into long touchdowns, right? It's not that complicated, right? Get a body on a body, assignment correct, move your feet, and then let those running backs do what they got to do. I think those are the keys for me. Those are the keys to victory for me.
And you make a really good point in that if the Notre Dame offensive line can just play better than they did last week, this game may not even be close.
Yeah.
I think that this offense is just they're right there knocking on the door. We've seen it in spurts. We've seen it, right? And so I'm confident. I will say that. Let's see how confident I am when we put my money where my mouth is when we get to predictions.